Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for checking in with us. It is my pleasure to be with Dr. Tina Payne Bryson this afternoon. Dr. Bryson, hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
You bet. And we're excited because we're actually welcoming you back to SAES. A few years ago with your book, No Drama Discipline, you presented at our early learning conference in Fort Worth. So it's a pleasure to have you back at our biennial conference in October.
Fantastic. I always love when I get invited back. It means I did something right.
You knocked it out of the park is what you did.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your latest book, The Yes Brain. So I think the best place to start is just tell us what you mean by having a yes brain.
A yes brain is both a neurological state and an approach to life. So let's talk about the neurological state first. So the brain is either in a reactive state where we are what we would call dysregulated, where we're kind of falling apart, we're not in control of our emotions, our behaviors aren't really a typical representation of us. So that would sort of be this reactive neurological state. And in fact, our whole nervous system gets involved in that. And so our heart beats faster, and we're actually not even able to access our problem-solving areas of our brain and our frontal lobe. So there's this reactive state we can be in, or we can be in a receptive, open, creative, playful, problem-solving, resilient state. And so that's the contrast between what this no brain and a yes brain neurologically is. So what it's not is, it's not about parents and educators saying yes to kids all the time. In fact, saying we can actually do no brain caregiving, or we can do yes brain caregiving, and that would really be whether or not we're activating reactive states in kids or furthering their reactive states, or whether we're helping them move more towards a receptive, resilient state.
Gotcha. So everyone who has worked with young people have experienced what it's like to have a young person in a no brain mode and a young person in a yes brain mode. So what
we can be in both of those modes too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been back and forth today about 6 times. So what would you say are some things that schools can do to help develop more of that yes brain?
So when we really talk about a yes brain, what we're looking at and what sort of gives us this evidence of a yes brain are these 4 pillars. And the way we can remember them is that spells out brie, like the cheese, B-R-I-E. And so those 4 pillars of a resilient yes brain are balance. So another way we could talk about that is self-regulation and really having a state of regulation inside of ourselves. So balance, and that one comes first on purpose, because if you're not emotionally balanced, you can't get to the rest. And the rest are resilience. So that's the ability to withstand and tolerate adversity and challenge and do well in the face of that. Insight, which is the superpower of self-understanding that allows us to begin to start to have choices, as opposed to just being victim to our circumstances and our internal chaos. And then that last one is E for empathy. And that's really the ability not only to think with and feel with other people, but also to find joy in reducing the suffering of others, and to also celebrate the successes of others. And I think in our achievement-driven culture, a lot of times we compete, youth compete with each other, and parents compete with each other because we want our kids to, go to the best schools, or, those kinds of things. And so empathy also encompasses this idea of really celebrating other people's successes. So when we have balance, resilience, insight, and empathy, those are the pillars that lead to this yes brain. And that was sort of the second part of what I was talking about, not just a neurological state, but a way of being and an approach to life. Because when we have experiences where we repeatedly get practice being balanced, resilient, insightful, and empathetic, our brain wires to do that automatically, and it becomes who we are and how we approach the world. So what's exciting about this is that schools can really play a huge role in building balance, resilience, insight, and empathy by giving kids experiences to do those. And you won't be surprised, knowing anything about any of my work, that a lot of that comes back fundamentally to the relationships we build with kids and the way we model balance, resilience, insight, and empathy. And so we'll have a lot of fun when I come talking about sort of different states and how we both help kids move back into yes brain states when they're in more no brain states. And then how do we expand their capacity to be in yes brain states more of the time? How do we help that be something they become? So we'll talk about some really practical strategies for what schools can do to do that. And I think, right now it's really interesting. A lot of schools are either mandated or are motivated, and sometimes both, to bring SEL into schools. There's a lot of talk. There's whole conferences on social emotional learning.
Right.
And I like that people are talking about social and emotional learning as opposed to just curriculum, social and emotional curriculum. I think it's sort of a step beyond. But one thing I really like to do, and the Momentous Institute in Dallas does this, is to talk not just about social and emotional curriculum or social and emotional learning, but really to talk about social and emotional health. And so we'll sort of talk about, that's an overarching piece that also encompasses our own role and responsibility to be a yes brain person ourselves when we walk into those classrooms. And that our own social and emotional health is a huge piece of what's happening so that we can be intentional about bringing that into the classrooms and into the cultures of our schools.
Well, I'm so excited that you're going to be with our faculty and with all the different people in leadership roles in our schools in the Southwestern Association of Episcopal Schools. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And everyone who's watching, registration is now open. If you'll click on the link that you'll find on the page, you can go ahead and reserve your space and take care of your travel arrangements as well. Dr. Bryson, we're so excited you're going to be with us in just a few short months. So we will see you in Houston in October.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. How was that?